Today, we're going to tackle some of the myths about ADHD. The stuff people still say, even though it's 2026 and they could Google that shit in like 10 seconds flat. Let's start with the one that winds me up the most. Myth number 1. ADHD isn't real. It just means you can't focus. I swear, the next time I see someone say, "Oh look, squirrel," I'm going to slap them so hard. I'm going to slap them so hard, their great-great-great-granddad will feel it. ADHD, depending on your personality, can be incredibly destructive. At least these days people know what it is. And most kids get help early. But that help usually means learning to behave properly, to sit still, to stop interrupting, make life easier for everybody else. Not for them to express, not for them to live the way they feel they should live. What we really need isn't behavioural training. We need to learn how to live productively without feeling like constant failures. I had a beautiful example of this. I go on a walk once a month with a local walking club, and Max, the guy that was in charge on the last walk that I went, he teaches special needs kids, and he said one of the kids there is really quite troublesome and quite quarrelsome, but he loves Land Rovers. Max basically teaches him everything he can from the angle of it being a Land Rover in some way, so working with maths, you work out what the panel sizes are, and I thought that was an incredibly ingenious way to teach someone that isn't going to want to sit down and behave in a class. I didn't want to sit down and behave in a class. Part of that is ADHD, part of it is that I'm relatively smart, so it kind of like I'd finish my work in a quarter of the time than everyone else, and I'd end up sitting there bored, and I'd start throwing stuff around and just being a general pain in the arse. I'm 54, I've worked in a war zone, I drove lorries in a war zone. I've seen some pretty shitty things, but nothing hits me harder than when my 26-year-old ADHD daughter lost her phone for the 5th time in 4 or 5 weeks and burst into tears and said, "Why am I like this? Why am I like this, Dad?" That broke me, because that's the dark side of ADHD. That's the side that no one really understands. The self-hate, the guilt, the frustration that you can't even manage a simple thing like keeping a phone without feeling broken. That's something that I struggle with a lot. I had a bit of a shitty upbringing, and I've had to overcome that. Whether I did a good job of overcoming it, I don't know. I had a bit of a crappy upbringing. I wasn't treated fairly at school. I was treated like a bad kid rather than being treated like a kid with a problem. So over time, everything I've learned, I've had to learn the hard way. The school of hard knocks, college of life, university of life, whatever you want to call it. But I will never, ever forget my daughter bursting into tears because she'd lost her phone again. While I am more than capable of taking the mickey out of myself and other people, I basically just take the piss out of people constantly, but while I'm more than capable of taking the mickey out of myself, there's some lines that don't need crossing. And describing ADHD, boiling that down to something as simple as, "Oh look, squirrel," is just more insulting to me, and probably some of you guys, than anyone has ever really insulted me before, and it only gets worse every time I hear it. Moving on to a slightly more cheerful one. Only children have ADHD. What a crock of shit. What an absolute crock of shit. This is not true. I'm 54. My older brother is 70-something. He has ADHD. His comes out left, right and centred. He's got hundreds of projects sitting around, unfinished projects sitting around. His house is stacked from floor to ceiling with stuff that he's got a plan for but never actually puts the plan into action. And it doesn't disappear when you turn into an adult. It doesn't just go away because you're an adult. It changes shape. It changes into something stronger, something harder. Some research says that the symptoms lessen with age. It's not what I'm feeling. What I'm feeling is increasing tiredness, mental exhaustion, frustration watching the years slip by slower than they should. I get less done in a day than most people do. I find myself exhausted so easily. I have learned how to deal with quite a few of the behaviours that ADHD brings out in a human. So from the outside, I look like a really organised, really together person, but that's not what's in between my fingers right now. In there is still an absolute mess. I just do a really good job of keeping that mess together. As I've already expressed, the worst part of ADHD as I'm aging is the emotional side. And I believe over time I have been inflexible emotionally, and I am been suppressing emotions rather than sort of letting them out. And that's why I'm struggling later in life. When you start to see how long you've been fighting the same battles, which is what I've been doing for my entire life, it starts to get a bit tiring. And I'm at that point now. I'm only 54, and I want to retire. I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to have to keep going through all of this aggro. I'm just exhausted all day, every day. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I feel so tired I could go to sleep now. This is long. This is dragging on a bit. So number 3, medication fixes everything. No, it doesn't. Medication can potentially cause more trouble than it solves. It's not a magic light switch to turn off ADHD. And long-term medication alone is not a real solution for anything. Not for ADHD, not for bad diet, not for anything at all. If you want to manage ADHD properly, you need therapy, you need structure, you need systems, you need rules. And you need all of those things to work for you personally, not as some big overbearing weight that covers everything. You need to work out systems, rules, behaviours and structure that works for you personally. Things like mantras, word walls, visual reminders, all the weird, strange things that help you function in a world that isn't built for you. This world isn't built for you. It's built for neurotypical people. I have another issue. I'm physically much taller than like 97% of the population or something stupid like that. So I don't physically fit in the world either. Everything's too small for me. I would say medication might potentially help you if you're in a situation where I am now, where you're struggling. Medication might help you. I'm not condoning medication in any way, shape or form. I don't agree with it at all. Medication might be able to take the weight off of it for a little while and help you function better while you learn how to cope properly with ADHD. But you've still got to steer that car. You've still got to do the driving. On a side note, one of my son's friends, he's an adult, he's 23, he's just started taking medication for ADHD for the first time in his life, and I'm interested to see what happens over the next 6 or 10 weeks, to see if he changes, to see what it does. I'll keep you updated on that. Okay, so myth number 4. I'm reading this and I still can't get it right. ADHD only affects attention. No. I've already been through this, I believe, in one of the ones further up. It affects everything. It affects your mind, your body, your sense of smell, your emotions, your relationships, your organisation, your reactions, time, impulsivity. Everything that makes you who you are is affected by ADHD if you have it. It doesn't just make it hard to pay attention. It means you notice a lot of things a lot of the time. Every sound, every flicker of movement, every smell. It can be overwhelming. And when you're tired, it's downright debilitating. Being in a pub and you can hear everyone's conversations all at once. I don't know if that's an ADHD trait, but I know I have it, I know my son has it, and I know my next door neighbour has it as well. He hears everything when he's sitting in a pub. That can be an overload so easily, and I can find myself overloaded in a room with 3 people in it. If 2 people start talking at once, I hear both conversations at the same time. On with number 5. This is a double-edged sword. People with ADHD just need to try harder and be more disciplined. And I'm going to be brutally honest with you, that is a double-edged sword. It's tricky because it's partly true. Yes, we do have to try harder, and yes, we do have to discipline ourselves, but we can't do it like neurotypical people do. The harder I try to get organised, the more I become disorganised. It takes a ton of energy. Just to remember to be organised in the first place. Then you've actually got to do the organising. And that doesn't make no sense to me. Might not make any sense to you. Back in school, I used to hear this shit all the time. You're an intelligent kid. Why don't you just try harder? If I had £1 for every time someone had told me that, I'd be rich, especially with compound interest. So no, it's not as simple as try harder and be disciplined, but in a weird way, it is that simple. You do have to be more disciplined with yourself, but you have to do it in a way that suits you. You have to do it with systems and rules so that you're not relying on your grey matter, that is basically a plate of spaghetti. You're not relying on your grey matter to consciously make you do things. If you use systems, you don't have to worry about. Look through my shorts. There's examples of systems in my video shorts. So there you go. 5 ADHD myths that need to fuck off over in a corner somewhere and die. If this has resonated with you at all, give it a like, give it a subscribe. You know how it works on YouTube. Without the likes and the subscriptions, the channel just dies, no matter how much you post. Tell me in the comments which myth winds you up the most. Or if you've got more, put them in the comments as well. I can put them all into a video later on down the line, along with the methods that I've used to deal with them. Next week, we'll dive into ADHD, work, and why your brain hates routine but still needs it. Goes back to what I've been saying about structure. Anyway, chaps, see you soon. Have fun. Be safe.